My name is JJ Sagi. I live in Bedford, Massachusetts. A few years ago, my wife and I were going to venture into our first construction project. A little bit intimidating in that we don't know what goes into a construction project, and we're very weary of whoever we were going to work with, that we'd be able to trust the process. In that process, my wife had found Tom's truck as Tom was driving by, HTR Construction, and Tom was the first person we engaged in the process. And to couple that, we had not seen any kind of architect or any kind of drawings. We had nothing on the table at all. And Tom came over, took a look at our project, which was basically taking down a wall in our kitchen, opening up a hole in another part of our kitchen so that we would have a very open area kind of kitchen. 1960s house, very old construction in the kitchen, and just looking to make it modern. Tom was very patient with the fact that we didn't really have a lot of the details. We didn't really have someone specifically that we were working with from a cabinet or counter construction standpoint, but was able to walk us through the entire process. Tom's methodology is one that also made us very comfortable. So once Tom understood what our requirements were, he walked us through a bunch of options of what we were looking for. And Tom was able to really put together a package pretty quickly that was clear, concise, that we could understand. The amazing thing about Tom's methodology was he had a 5-week timeline for our particular project. He outlined what was going to happen with each one of those 5 weeks, and he delivered on every one of those steps. As I mentioned, I'm a little bit nervous in dealing with a contractor, feeling like I could be pretty well taken advantage of, and this again was a concern that I voiced to Tom directly. And Tom explained to me during any construction process the variables that might come into play, things that cannot be predicted until he opens something up. And he made it very clear as to how we would handle those situations. And so we encountered a situation where once he took up the floor, the flooring beneath the floor was not ideal for putting the new floor down. And I thought this was an opportunity for Tom to take advantage of the situation, but he met us in the middle and came up with a very nice plan to take some of the cost on himself and for us to make a little investment so that the floor he would put down was on top of a solid infrastructure. As I mentioned, we really didn't have any drawings or any kind of architectural thoughts, and so the patience that Tom and his foreman Bill showed during the entire process was immense, because my wife and I were changing our ideas on the fly. Because we didn't have the forethought of what we were going to put up for tiles, or what the matching countertop was going to be, or what the cabinets were going to be. They were very patient with the process, and not only patient but very consultative from a standpoint of understanding the impact of the decisions we were going to make and the pros and cons of each. Never really directing us or telling us what to do, but being very consultative in, if you make this decision on the flooring versus this decision, here are the pros and cons. An example of Bill really looking out for his client is upon the receipt of all the cabinets. Bill took a very careful look at every cabinet, every angle, every piece, every item. More so than I think than my wife and I would have ever taken a look at, and he was able to discover some flaws that he realized that we may or may not have discovered, but that 6 months down the road we probably would have discovered, and he got those off the table as well. Very similar with all of our appliances. When all of our appliances were delivered, the care to which Bill looked over all of the materials to make sure that they were delivered in perfect condition, and again noticed something we probably wouldn't have noticed, and we were able to get that addressed proactively rather than being disappointed after the fact. When his team came in to put in the countertop, there was one specific area within the edge that I think the folks putting in the countertop were even a little upset with the fact that Bill had pointed it out to my wife and I, because again, I don't think we would have ever noticed it. Bill noticed it, became obvious to us, and again it was addressed. I felt like I was working with a team of folks who were just as interested in our success and happiness as we were, in coming out with a final product in a kitchen that we'd be really happy with. This particular project was kicking off right around Memorial Day and was going to end right around 4th of July, and Tom's team was able to deliver within that 5-week time frame, even with the 2 holidays that they allowed us to enjoy without construction going on. The other aspect that I found extremely comforting is I have 3 young children, and we were going to be without a kitchen for 5 weeks. And my house was such that, unfortunately, we would have to navigate through the kitchen to get in and out of anywhere, to go out of the house, to get in the house, to go to the bedrooms. And so the safe contraptions that Tom's team was able to put together to allow us to navigate through the kitchen safely as needed was an amazing combination that really made it as easy for us to continue to live in as much comfort as you can without having a kitchen with 3 young kids. Just the proposal itself and the thoroughness of the proposal really left very little question as to what was going to happen, when it was going to happen, and the completeness of what was going to happen. As any good client would do, they would get bids from multiple vendors, and so certainly my wife and I were very impressed with Tom's proposal, but thought to do our due diligence we would check with a couple of other referrals. And so we had 2 other bids proposed to us. Some of them may have been a little bit less expensive than Tom's, but what really turned my wife and I off was the incompleteness of it, and just a lot of assumptions that would have had to have been made within that contract. And again, there were no questions, there were no assumptions, there was nothing left out of Tom's proposal. So that gave my wife and I the confidence. I've gone the inexpensive route before, and I've paid twice to have that project done. So this time around, I felt like I was dealing with a professional who, again, left nothing unturned, that there weren't going to be any questions along the way. And for me, that made the choice that much easier. And the end result, certainly, it was the right decision for us.